Howdy everybody. We're going to start a new project. So this is going to be the underquilt project. So again, just to kind of walk you through what I got, I'm keeping this as simple as possible because the hammock project was more difficult for my first one than I probably should have. So I figured, to balance out the universe, I'm going to go ahead and keep this as simple as possible. So what I've done is I've gone to Walmart and I've gotten myself a sleeping bag from there, and this is filled with the polyester fill that they do, so it's rated from 40 to 60 degrees. And then I went and I got some of this grosgrain edging that I'm going to use. So you'll fold it over and I'll just stitch it a couple times and it'll be really nice and strong on the edges. And then chalk cord for all the edges and everything. So that'll be good. And then finally, the last little bit for the edges, I may not, I'm not sure yet. These are some metal triangles that I found. So we'll see how it goes. It'll depend on how it sort of all fits together on whether I'll use these or not. But we'll just have to play it by ear. So that's what I got. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so we got ourselves all laid out. So just a couple of things. I probably am only going to use just a little over half of the width of this at its fullest width. It's going to be sort of shaped like a football shape, but with the ends cut off of it. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to cannibalize the zipper for another project, probably for my bug netting. I don't know, I might not use that zipper because I actually want a two-way zipper, so we'll see. And then also I'm going to make it quite a bit shorter than the full length of this as well, because I will have it go from my neck to probably just at my heels, because my feet do tend to get cold, so I want that extra warmth. Okay, I just wanted to get you a shot of me taking off the zipper here. And all I'm doing is, I'm using a seam ripper and pretty much just taking the threads and just kind of cutting them as I go, being careful not to get the fabric or the zipper. I went for it and I cut the sleeping bag in half, as you can see. And now what I'm doing is I'm actually opening up the top edge of it because I want to serge it so that I have something to adhere my grosgrain to. I'm going to also use my fray check on everything so that everything will stay together and not ravel and stuff too. So slowly making progress here. And I think I actually am going to leave it the length that it is just because I'm pretty tall. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. I know that there are easier ways to do this, but I'm just so worried about ripping this fabric that I'm really taking my time with this one and just doing it a little bit at a time. So you can see I'm just getting the stitching, pulling it apart. Hello. So I decided not to release that edge because it's actually pretty thin there. There's actually no batting there, so I'm going to be actually okay there. So all I'm going to do now is I'm just going to serge this edge and I'm going to serge this edge, and then I'll be ready to put in my grosgrain webbing. So pretty straightforward, simple project so far. So in terms of pinning, all I'm doing is I'm just lining up the edges, making sure that my batting is back a little ways, and then I'm just putting in my pin just like that. So I like to put them in like this just because it makes it sewing easier, but for serging I'm going to be pulling them out anyway before my serger gets to them, because the serger actually has a blade on it, so it cuts off excess fabric as it goes, which is pretty cool. So that's all I do, pretty much like I said, is make sure the batting is back out of the way, so I'm not going to be stitching over that, although it wouldn't really matter if I did. Now, I had actually contemplated a couple things with this underquilt. One of the things that I contemplated about doing, which I did mention at the beginning of this video, was I had mentioned I was thinking about, taking it in like a football shape. I decided, so this is my first underquilt, that I'm going to keep it as simple as possible. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just keep the standard rectangle shape, and I'm going to use my shock cord and everything else to either gather it in or let it out or whatever. The other thing I thought about doing was I thought about putting some extra insulation in the baffles before I close them out. I decided, no. If I am going to be adding any insulation, I can actually add it to the top of the quilt before I put it on my hammock. For example, I got some of this Reflectix stuff, which, I could cut out just a small square and put it in here. So what I might do eventually is I might go ahead and add some Velcro to this. We'll see, and if I do that, I'll just hand stitch it on so I don't go all the way through and everything else. And then that way what I could do is I could have some Velcro on this and then just, stick it in there if I need extra insulation. But probably what I'll do is I'll just have this be my kind of, late spring, summer, and fall underquilt. And then either I will make another one with down, or I'll buy, one of the ones online. We'll see, when I get there. Depends on how much energy I've got, at that point. But, yeah, so far it's been a good project, so keeping it simple and gotta keep going here. So I'm just serging away here. Before you get to your pin, you gotta pull it out, otherwise it's gonna make a real nasty noise. And you just shave off just a little bit of fabric as you go, just to make sure you're getting both edges. And you want to keep kind of, lining things up. You want to keep lining things up too, just to make sure you get, both pieces of fabric. Just slide it on through. That's all there is to it. Okay, so I'm at the point now where I'm starting to pin on the grosgrain, and I wanted to show you how I pin. So I actually go through and I pin this way, and I make sure when I pin that I'm hitting here, and then when I go back to the back side you can see where I'm hitting here. So that way I know when I stitch it I'm going to be hitting both pieces of the grosgrain folded over. And I'll probably will actually be about 1/8 of an inch up too, just to make doubly sure that I'm going to hit as I go. Okay, so I got the two ends done. Here's what they look like. Pretty cool. So I'm going to be feeding the shock cord through these little channels here when I get everything together. So now I have to do the edges. Very fun project. I'm having a good time. Okay, so here is the underquilt laid out on the ground. I kind of wanted to show you how I did this here. So you can see the shock cord fed through there. So basically I have 3 pieces of shock cord here. I've got this piece that's on the end that has a shock cord lock on either side. And then if you go down here, I have an identical one on the other end, same thing. It's got shock cord and then little locks on it. And there's one on the other end there. And then I have one continuous piece that goes all the way down the side, comes out, loops around, and then comes all the way back. And that's one piece that I've tied off here. Now what I did was I actually put it on my hammock, and I put some weight in my hammock, and that's how I fit it to my hammock. The other thing I have is I have 2 of these little S-beaner doodads here. So when I hook it over my whipping on my hammock, what I'll do is I'll take the S-beaner and I'll hook it over the top of my hammock. So that way it's over the top, and it sort of acts like, you know how sometimes on some of the hammock forms you see those little triangle things that you can hook to? That's how this kind of acts. It acts like kind of almost like a little triangle doodad. So it works pretty well. And I can slide it up or down depending on how loose or tight I want it. So it's pretty good. It's fully adjustable, and like I said, I lay pretty flat in my hammock, so the flat, that's why I didn't have to dart it for myself. So it works out pretty good, and it stays where I want it. And I actually like the thicker shock cord that I use too, because it makes it really easy for me to grab it and move it around, and it will stay where I want it to stay. So I like it for me. Okay, so here it is on. So you can see here at the end, I've just got it looped over my webbing here. And I've got my little S-spinner here that's holding it kind of over the top of my hammock. And it comes all the way down here, and this is where it goes underneath. And surprisingly, although there's a huge gap here, when I'm laying in it, actually this is fairly tight. So when I lay down in it, it gets pretty tight. And then it runs the whole length here, all the way back up over here. And then I basically have the same setup here. I've got my little S-spinner, and then it just hooks over the top of my webbing there. And that runs up to my tree straps. This is my ridge line right here. So it's a pretty good little deal. And like I said, if I want to, I can move this down like that, or I can move it back up, So, and it works out pretty good, like I say, I stay pretty flat. My lay is diagonal enough to where I lay pretty flat, and it serves me well. So, and I stay really warm, so I like it. I'd rather be warm. And I'm not a ground weenie.